Hello and welcome back to Neo Psychology with me, your teacher, Mr. Neo, the channel where I teach online psychology lessons for my wonderful students. Today we're carrying on with the unit of memory and we're looking at lesson 7, accuracy of eyewitness testimony, misleading information. Let's get started. Starter. Eyewitness testimony is the evidence provided in a court by a person who witnessed a crime with a view to identifying the perpetrator of a crime. But how accurate do you think eyewitness testimony is? What factors may affect the accuracy of eyewitness testimony? That's what we're going to look at today. So, eyewitnesses frequently play a critical role in criminal investigations, yet there is a good reason to suspect that their testimony may not be reliable. The Innocence Project claimed that 72% of convictions overturned by DNA testing involved eyewitness testimony that was not accurate. In today's lesson, we will look at the effects of misleading information that may affect what you remember and or recall about an event. There are two examples of misleading information: leading questions and post-event discussion. So, 3 learning objectives. Have a look at leading questions, post-event discussion, and then we're going to discuss and evaluate misleading information as a whole. Let's start with leading questions with a key piece of research by Loftus and Palmer, 1974. Experiment 1, procedure. 45 students were shown 7 films of different traffic accidents. After each film, the participants were given a questionnaire which asked them to describe the accident and then answer a series of specific questions about it. There was one critical question: how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? One group of participants were given this question. The other 4 were given the verbs smashed, collided, bumped, or contacted in place of the word hit. So, about how fast were the cars going when they collided with each other, or when they smashed each other, bumped each other, contacted each other. This critical question was a leading question because it suggested the answer that a particular participant might give. How did changing the verb affect the participant's response? What do you think? Let's have a look at the findings. The findings are shown in the table on the right, which demonstrate that leading questions can affect the response given by participants. So all participants witnessed the same video of 2 cars getting into an accident and hitting each other, but they were all given a different question. How fast do you think the cars were going when they smashed into each other, or collided with each other, or bumped each other? And depending on the question, depending on the verb used, depending on how fast they guessed or they estimated the mean miles per hour. The group that used the word smashed used 40.8 miles per hour on average, collided 39, bumped 38, hit 34, and contacted 31.8. So there's a big difference in the guesses depending on the type of verb used. This is an example of a leading question. So, the leading question may bias a participant's response or may actually cause information to be altered before it is stored. To test this, a new set of participants was divided into 3 groups and shown a film of a car accident lasting 1 minute, and again asked questions about speed. This is the experiment 2 now. That was the procedure. The participants were then asked to return 1 week later when they were asked a series of 10 questions about the accident, including another critical question: did you see any broken glass? There was no broken glass in the film, but presumably those who thought the car was travelling faster might be more likely to think that there would be broken glass. What was found? The findings show that the leading question did change the actual memory of a participant had for the event. So, if they used the word smashed, how fast do you think they're going when they smashed into each other? Did you remember there being broken glass? 16 said yes, 34 said no. Whereas if they used the word hit, how fast do you think it goes when they hit each other? Was there smashed glass? Only 7 said yes, and only 43 said no. In the control group, it was 6 and 44. and that can show you the power of leading questions. Can you identify whether the following questions are leading or non-leading questions? It's a little bit subjective, but I think you can try and work it out. There was broken glass, wasn't there? Leading or non-leading? That's a leading question. How drunk was the perpetrator? That's a leading question because it's saying they are drunk. How drunk were they? You saw the woman hit the dog, right? That is a leading question. Was there any discussion between the two people? That's a non-leading question. The perpetrator was taller than the victim, wasn't he? That's a leading question. What colour was the traffic light as the van came through? That's a non-leading question. A leading question would be, the light was red when he went through, wasn't it? Yes, right? You can see the difference. And that's leading questions, Loftus and Palmer's 1974 research. Can you identify one thing you learned about leading questions? Why do you think learning about this is important? What was the hardest part to understand about leading questions? And what questions has this raised for you? If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Maybe I'll answer them. Maybe. And there we go. There's learning objective 1 done. We're going to move on to learning objective 2. Identify and analyze post-event discussion. This is another form of misleading information. Post-event discussion, Gaber et al. 2003. Eyewitnesses to a crime may sometimes discuss their experiences and memories with each other. The following experiment explores the effects of such post-event discussion, PED, post-event discussion. Here's the procedure. Fiona Gaber et al. In 2003 studied participants in pairs. Each participant watched a video of the same crime, but filmed from different points of view. This meant that each participant could see elements in the event that the other could not. For example, only one of the participants could see the title of a book being carried by a young woman. Both participants then discussed what they had seen before individually completing a test of recall. So both had seen individual things of the same incident happening, however they saw from different angles, and only one could see certain elements, for example, the title of the book being held by the young woman, whereas the other one could not. They then had a discussion and they were asked questions about that. The researcher found that 71% of the participants mistakenly recalled aspects of the event that they did not see in the video but had picked up in the discussion. So 71% of people gave information from the other person's account but said that they saw it themselves. The corresponding figure in a control group where there was no discussion was 0%. This was evidence of memory conformity, right? Post-event discussion can then make you change your eyewitness testimony accounts. Here's an application question of Dan. Walking home from school, Dan witnessed a car crash. When he got home, he told his parents about the accident. They asked whether anyone was injured, how fast the cars were travelling when they smashed into each other, and the extent of the damage to the cars. Next day at school, Dan discussed the incident with other students who had witnessed the accident. His friend Tom saw the crash from the other side of the road. Tom said one of the drivers had cuts on his face and guessed he must have hit his head on the steering wheel. Why should the police treat Dan's eyewitness testimony with caution? Reference leading questions and post-event discussion in your answer. You need to use those two pieces of key terms in your answer. Quote parts of the question in your answer. Pause the video, write your answer down. Otherwise, I'm going for it now. Dan's parents used the verb smashed. Might lead him to estimate a higher speed as well as more damage to the cars, as smash suggests a more dramatic event than the actual incident. It's a leading question. Dan also engaged in post-event discussion with his parents and friends, which may have exposed him to misleading information. For example, Tom's comment may distort Dan's memory, so he believes he too could see the driver's injuries, even though this may not be possible from where Dan was standing. And that's post-event discussion. That's the second element of misleading information. Can you identify one thing you learned about post-event discussion? Why do you think learning about this is important? How does this apply in real life? What was the hardest part to understand about post-event discussions? And what questions has post-event discussions raised for you? Feel free to leave any questions in the comments. That's learning objective 2 done. We're moving on to learning objective 3 to discuss and evaluate accuracy of eyewitness testimony, misleading information. What are some of the strengths and limitations of accuracy of eyewitness testimony, misleading information? There is plenty of research evidence. Research has shown that misleading information can create false memories. Brown et al. In 2002 used misleading advertising material for Disneyland containing information about Bugs Bunny, obviously a Warner Brothers character, not a Disney character. Participants incorporated it into their original memories and remembered meeting Bugs Bunny during their visit to Disneyland. This shows how powerful misleading information can be in creating false memories. So if someone goes to Disneyland, oh, did you see Bugs Bunny? Oh, yeah, I hugged him and got his autograph and everything. Well, Bugs Bunny wouldn't have been there because he was a Warner Brothers character, not a Disney character, right? Eyewitness testimonies are not accurate. Misleading information can change your accounts. So there is plenty of research evidence. This is a strength because it's supporting evidence. Secondly, eyewitness testimony in real life may be different. Loftus's research has been criticised for lacking ecological validity. It is argued that lab experiments in eyewitness testimony do not represent real-life crimes or accidents because participants may not take the questions in an experiment seriously as they would in a real crime or accident. This suggests that misleading information may have less influence on real-life eyewitness testimony than Loftus research suggests. Okay? If it was a real incident or a real police incident, maybe things would have been different. So this is a limitation. It lacked ecological validity. However, there are real-world applications. Eyewitness testimony research has important implications for the criminal justice system, which relies on eyewitness identification for prosecution. Recent DNA exoneration cases have shown that mistaken eyewitness identification was the largest single factor contributing to the conviction of innocent people. This suggests that research can help ensure that innocent people are not convicted of crimes on the basis of faulty eyewitness accounts. Okay? This research can show that eyewitness accounts are not particularly accurate. Eyewitness testimony should not be used as damning evidence. It can be used as evidence, but not certainly the only form of evidence. So this is a strength because we can use it in real life to show how eyewitness testimonies are not accurate. Can you summarize each evaluated point into your own words? If you want to challenge yourself, can you summarize the evaluated point into exactly 10 words? Give that a go now, please. And that is learning objective 3 done. There we go. That was lesson 7, accuracy of eyewitness testimony, misleading information. Next lesson is lesson 8. It's the penultimate lesson, accuracy of eyewitness testimony, anxiety. How can anxiety affect eyewitness testimonies? Well done, my neo-psychologist. Great job today. I've been Mr. Neo. God bless and peace.
I'm feeling like Will. I feel like a prince. I'm feeling myself. I'm loaded with bills. Cause I wasn't blessed with no Uncle Phil. Don't know how it feels. I wanted to flex. They told me to chill. I'm making a flip. My life is a flick. Now load up the film.